my review of the Phil Ochs album, All the News That's Fit to Sing. It was released in 1964 and produced by Jack Holzman and Paul Rothschild. So before I talk about the album, I'm assuming if you watch this you probably know who Phil is, but for those who don't, he was a folk singer. I think mostly active in the 60s, very political songs for the most part. I'm not going to get too much into my political views in this because this is a music channel. So I'm mainly going to talk about the songs, like what I think about them as songs. I do pretty much agree with most of his views, which is probably why I'm a fan of his. So I think he's one of those people that if you disagree with what he's saying, you might not be as into his music. So there is that, but I think that he's someone who had a lot of important things to say that I think are still relevant, even though a lot of these songs are kind of dated by their references to what was going on in the 60s. I think they still talk about things that are relevant. Phil has, I think, like 8 albums that I'm going to review. I'm only reviewing the things that were really put out while he was like actively recording. So I'm not going to do like the Phil Ochs early years and like some of the live albums and stuff that have come after, and that's mainly because I don't have those. As if I get them and like when, which I probably will at some point, but like I'll review those as I get them. So I'm going to be doing from All the News That's Fit to Sing, this album, up to Gunfight at Carnegie Hall. So pretty much all his Elektra stuff and his A&M stuff. So yeah, Phil, once again, if you don't know who he is, his story is kind of a sad one. I'm not really going to go into it a whole lot because, the internet's there. You can check it out on your own, and I want to make this more about, his music than what happened to him. But he, started with mental health issues and unfortunately wasn't with us for as long as he should have been. So yeah, sad story, but like I said, I want to make this more about the music, so if you want to know like what happened to him and all that, you can look it up. So I got into Phil kind of in a weird way. I was getting really into the Byrds, and I had listened to Sweetheart of the Rodeo and kind of fell in love with that album, and I'm a huge fan of the drumming on that album, huge fan of the drummer of that album, Kevin Kelly. And when I listened to that, I'm like, I want to hear more of this guy's playing. Well, it turns out Kevin Kelly didn't really play on a lot. And one of the albums that he did was the Phil Ochs live album, Gunfight at Carnegie Hall. And so I kind of saw that through like Wikipedia that, okay, he plays on this. So I went looking for, that album to hear. Well, it turns out it's hard to find. So I ended up buying one of the songs off Amazon because I didn't have like a whole lot of money at the time, so I bought one for like $1 or whatever it was to where you could stream it. And the song I bought turned out to be one that didn't have drums on it, so it was just I Ain't Marching Anymore, which is one of Phil's most famous songs. I think it's off his second album, and it's just him with an acoustic guitar. So I ended up having to get another album so I could hear the drums, another song off that album so I could hear the drums. But yeah, I heard that song, and it didn't matter that it didn't have what I wanted to hear on it, because I immediately fell in love with the song, and Phil's voice and his songwriting and everything. I was just like, wow, this guy's great, so I gotta go get more of his stuff. So at that point I began like seeking out all his albums, and it took me a while to get them because they are kind of harder to find, as in that you kind of have to like specifically search for them on like eBay and stuff. I think it's harder to get CD copies of his albums really than it is the vinyl copies. For this first album, All the News That's Fit to Sing, I have the CD copy, which I actually got first. I'm not sure when. Probably around like 2020, I would guess. I haven't had it that long. I have the vinyl copy that I bought on eBay. I found a lot of like 4 Phil records. It was this one, his second album, his 4th album, Pleasures of the Harbor, and his final studio album, Greatest Hits. and so I bought that. I think I got it for, I don't know, I want to say like $5. It was really cheap for the 4 albums. And when I got this one, I'm like looking at it and I'm like, oh, this is in pretty good shape, a little damage here and stuff. And I'm like, oh no, somebody wrote on the back of it. That sucks. And then I started looking at the handwriting, and I'm like, that looks like it might be some kind of signature. And so I'm still not sure. You know, honestly, I don't know where to get these kind of things checked. But I have like looked at pictures on the internet of stuff that he signed and compared it to this, and I think it looks pretty close. So I'm not sure, but I might have bought a really cheap signed copy. I don't know if you can see it there. I can't really read what he wrote, but it looks like he wrote something left wing maybe, and then Luck, and signed his name. So I'm not sure if that's his signature, but it kind of looks like it could be, so that's pretty cool. So yeah, this album, not my favorite of his at all, really. I do like it quite a bit, but I think it's his first album. I don't think he's like as sure of himself in the studio vocally here as he is later on some of his albums. He has a second guitar player here kind of helping him out, which is a little bit different. I think the guy's name is Danny Caleb, it says right here. I think Caleb's how you say that. So yeah, this album, I don't think it's the strongest. I don't think I would start here if I had never heard any of his stuff before, because this is just, it's a lot of acoustic folk songs. With just the 2 guitars and his voice. There's one song that has harmonica on it, and all the songs are pretty much political, as the title kind of suggests. So it's not the easiest of his albums to get into, but I do appreciate it quite a bit. And the album opens with One More Parade. It's one of the few songs on here that's a co-write with Bob Gibson, and I think it's a pretty strong opening track. It's kind of an anti-war song. It's pretty catchy. I think that Phil's performance on it's good. It's not my favorite thing on here, but I enjoy it. The second track, The Thresher, this one's about I believe it was a nuclear submarine that sank. And I like this one a lot. I always kind of liked like ship sinking stuff, so I like songs about that, I guess. And I like the lyrics. I like Phil's vocal performance on it a lot. Just a really good song, really catchy song. Another one that can still sort of be relevant in ways. I feel like a lot of the songs on here, they are referencing kind of specific stuff. Like I don't even really know. And like I'm into history, and there's certain things on here that like I had to kind of look up, and I haven't really heard that much of. So like there's a lot of stuff on here that he's referencing things that if you're younger and you go back to this, like you might not know what he's talking about. But I think some of the ideas that he's getting from those situations can definitely still be applied to things today. And it's kind of interesting from a historical perspective if you're into that kind of stuff, going back and seeing what people were talking about then. So yeah, Thresher. This one for me is a highlight. I really enjoy that song a lot. The third track, Talkin' Vietnam, is one of those like talking blues type of songs. He's got 2 of them on here. I'm not the biggest fan of that style of song, just in general, whether it's Phil doing it or Bob Dylan doing it or whoever doing it. I'm just not a huge fan of that style. This one I kind of like, though. I think the lyrics are pretty entertaining. If you don't know about like some of the early Vietnam stuff and like DM and stuff, you're probably going to be like, what's he talking about, though, because it's very specific to that topic, the lyrics. So this is one that like people's enjoyment of is probably going to like hinge on how much they know about Vietnam. So yeah, that one not one of the strongest tracks on here, but I do enjoy the lyrics. The 4th track, Lou Marsh. So I tried to look up what this song was about, and I ended up finding something about like a Canadian referee, and then I couldn't really specifically find anything on who Lou Marsh was, but I did see like a post where somebody saying it was, I believe he was like a preacher who I think tried to stop like a gang fight or something and was killed. And that's what the song seems to say. So I'm not really sure what this song's about, but I do like the song. It's kind of a really haunting type of song. The melody sticks in my head a lot. I think Phil has a really strong vocal on it. So that one to me is kind of a minor highlight. The fifth track, Power and Glory. I think this might be one of the more well-known songs off this album, but I'm not positive. This one I think is really good. In some ways, it's kind of the least political track so far. And yeah, it's a really good song. I think it's lyrically, still pretty relevant. So that one is also a highlight. The sixth track, Celia, is my favorite song on the album. This one is also about something I'm really unfamiliar with, so I'm not going to say a whole lot about it because I don't want to get anything that wrong, but I believe it's about a guy named William J. Pomeroy and his wife Celia, and they were, I don't know if they were both jailed, but something happened and they were jailed for like not wanting the U.S. to be in the Philippines. So I don't know, like I said, a whole lot about that story, so I don't really want to like get into it. But the song itself, I think I really like the lyrics. I think Phil's vocal was really great on it, and just another really haunting, beautiful song. So really love that track. Seventh track, The Bells. This one is an Edgar Allan Poe poem that Phil set to music, which, when I think of Poe, I think of like creepy stuff, so I don't really think of like this song, so that was kind of interesting to get kind of a different perspective on Poe that way. And yeah, I don't know, this one's kind of interesting because there are two different versions of it. The CD copy of this has like a live version where Phil does some talking about it and stuff, and the original vinyl version just has a studio version of the song, which is a little bit different than the live version. I can't really say I prefer either of them to each other. I like both versions, and I think it's a pretty good song. So that's another kind of minor highlight for me. The eighth track, Automation Song. This one about machines taking jobs, so I guess it's still pretty relevant. It's one where I think it's pretty catchy. I like the guitar, but it's not one of my favorite tracks. Next, The Ballad of William Worthy. This is, I guess, about a journalist who went to Cuba after you weren't allowed to go to Cuba anymore, and so he wasn't allowed to come back here. And I like this one a lot. I think the lyrics are pretty entertaining. I think it's a pretty catchy song, so yeah, that one I'm a pretty big fan of. The 10th track, Knock on the Door, is one of the darkest songs on here, definitely. It's very, sinister lyrically and the way the music sounds. So yeah, that one, it's kind of a highlight, but it's like such a dark song that it's kind of a, I don't know, it's just a really dark song. The 11th track, Talking Cuban Crisis. This one, probably my least favorite track on here. It's another one of the talking blues type tracks. This one about the Cuban Missile Crisis. I don't know. It's just to me a little less interesting than the other one, but it's not bad. It does have some lyrics in it that I really like. So yeah, that one. Not my favorite, but I'm just not really into that whole talking blues thing that much. 12th track, Bound for Glory. This one I like a lot. It's kind of slower. It's catchy. This is the one with harmonica in it. I believe it's John Sebastian playing the harmonica. And that kind of gives it a cool, different sound to it because everything else to this point has just been, the guitar and Phil's voice. which is nothing wrong with that, but it is nice to get a little variety. For me, this is kind of like the last big highlight on the album. 13th track, Too Many Martyrs, is the other song he co-wrote with Bob Gibson. This one I think is more notable for the lyrics really than it is for the, I don't know, like the melody of it doesn't like stand out that much to me. But the lyrics do stand out. So that one, not really a highlight for me, just with the melodically and stuff. And then the 14th track, What's That I Hear? This one really kind of just goes by before I even like register that it's been on. Like it's a pretty short song, and I don't know. I don't really have much to say about it because it's just like it's I don't know. It just kind of is there and then it's gone. So the CD version also has a bonus track, Bullets of Mexico. It's fine, but I don't think it's like as strong as anything that did make it onto the album. So I don't think that it was like a mistake having that not on the album and it just being a bonus track. So All the News That's Fit to Sing is an album that I like, but it's not my favorite Phil album. I tend to prefer his later stuff. Of his first three like acoustic folk albums, I think that this one's the weakest. Probably just because it's his first one. I think that his performances here aren't as confident as they would be later on. Like his voice gets better as he goes. He doesn't need the second guitar player on the next few ones, so I think that kind of helps things too. So yeah, this one, I think of the first three acoustic ones, this is probably the weakest. Probably not the best place to start if you're looking to get into Phil, even if you're into like the early acoustic folk stuff. I'd probably start with his third album, not this one. But yeah, it's a good album. Just I think kind of suffers a little bit from being his first album.